Well, ever since we were in the middle of Phase 4 of the MCU, the talk has been Young Avengers. Marvel has gone out of their way to introduce a lot of new characters and members of that team, but at this point, it's taken so long, it appears that project itself is evolving because time has taken its toll. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about the most updated report on what was the Young Avengers project, what it's evolving into, and why this is probably a smart move for Marvel because they just can't seem to move faster on this project than Father Time is taking out of the actors. Well, as many of you know, we've talked quite a bit on this channel about Marvel introducing a lot of new characters to set up a Young Avengers project. Young Avengers has been something we've talked about quite a bit on this channel, and we know the team-up aspect of this is something Bob Iger and Kevin Feige really like, and often leads to much better returns for Marvel Studios. Now, this is a pretty interesting update because it's coming from two different sources. We actually got this report from both Nexus Point News and Dan Rickman. So, like everything not from Kevin Feige, we're taking it with a grain of salt, but when you're hearing it from multiple sources, especially multiple sources that tend to be reliable, well, I give it a little bit more weight. Now, according to both groups of Hollywood insiders, Young Avengers project is still moving forward, and it's being reported it's being developed as a Disney Plus series, not a movie. Now, this is something we speculated about for a long time, but really not the biggest part of the story. Probably the biggest part of the story is it's being retitled from Young Avengers to Champions. Now, if you're familiar with the Champions comics, it does have a lot of crossover with the Young Avengers, but it's a distinctively different group of heroes featuring quite a few familiar faces. Now, despite all the characters that Marvel has introduced, the Champions has several that Marvel has not, including the Miles Morales Spider-Man, Sam Alexander Nova, and a version of Scott Summers from the X-Men. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a pretty big change, but given what's going on with Marvel, totally makes a lot of sense. Arguably, the moment for the Young Avengers to assemble has kind of passed. All of these actors are fairly young, and as many of you know, when people are young, they age up quickly. And the idea of Marvel putting together a teenage group of superheroes, well, honestly, that ship has sailed. Most of these actors and actresses are in their early 20s, so shifting it to a Champion series allows Marvel to keep on using these characters and kind of focus on them being younger, but not teenage heroes like the Young Avengers from the comics. Now, honestly, who they team up here, well, that is the big question. But Marvel might have given us a peek into this recently on a Disney cruise where we saw America Chavez, Ironheart, and Stature all hanging out together, suggesting those three characters in particular will definitely be part of this team. It's obvious to me that this is sort of an important project for Marvel because they're evolving it into something new, and all these new characters they've established definitely need a place to go. Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel have already connected in the end of the Marvels. We were just introduced to Wiccan, and clearly Speed is around the corner. We have Stature, Ironheart, and America Chavez as already part of the MCU, and it appears to me several other heroes are right around the corner, including Patriot and maybe even Miles Morales. Now, to me, team-up films are where Marvel really makes their money, and their stories seem to embrace these larger group ensembles a little bit better than the more intimate stories told with one character. Honestly, this allows for a dynamic on-screen that makes for a bit more fun, and with Marvel leaning into the franchises that work, specifically the Avengers, well, I wouldn't be surprised if the Champions are right around the corner, and they somehow work that into the name. I could definitely see Marvel renaming the project Champions with a subtitle of The Young Avengers, allowing Marvel to lean into the title a little bit, but not be so bound to the rules that the comics established so long ago. Now, at this point, there's no other news on this project. There's not a release date, we don't have any official characters attached to it, and Marvel has provided no official updates. But given what we saw on the cruise ship and all the characters they've introduced over these two phases, I find it virtually impossible this is not happening in some way, shape, or form. Pretty much at this point, we just need to know the roster. I would like to see a few surprises on the team. Sam Alexander would be great, but beyond that, I want to let Marvel cook with this one for a little while because they have taken the time to introduce these characters, some of which we've seen multiple times, and now getting them together in a team up would definitely be something that would get fans excited. When we finally get to see the Champions or the Young Avengers, or some combination of both, well, we're going to have to wait and see. Now, before you take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell for all the updates, and make sure you get every notification because we do daily Marvel and DC content and we don't want you to miss any news.